Last year, I thought I was in for a quiet Thanksgiving. It was the first holiday since my wife and I separated, so it was just me and my 7-year-old daughter, Ellie. I wanted to make it feel normal for her balloons, a goofy paper turkey on the table, pumpkin pie she helped mix. She was cheerful all morning, humming and running around with crayons. Around noon, I asked her to draw something while I prepped the turkey. 15 minutes later, she brought me her picture. At first, I almost laughed. It was a classic kid's drawing, her, me, and our house. But then my eyes drifted to the left side of the page. She'd added someone else. A tall black figure standing behind us in the yard. It was drawn in heavy, dark strokes, a completely filled-in silhouette. It had no face, just a stretched oval for a head and long, thin arms that reached nearly to the ground. It towered over the house, almost like a shadow leaning in too close. "Who's that supposed to be?" I asked, trying to sound lighthearted. Ellie didn't answer right away. She just swung her legs, studying my reaction. "That's the man who watches us," she finally said. A cold, electric feeling shot through me. "What man?" I asked. "Where did you see him?" She shrugged, like it was obvious. Outside. We lived in a quiet cul-de-sac, the kind of place where you know everyone. The idea of her seeing a stranger, it bothered me. "Sweetie, when did you see this man?" I pressed. She tapped a crayon against her knee. "Last night, by my window." I should have checked the yard right then, but I told myself it was just her imagination. After all, this was the same kid who once insisted her stuffed animal got dizzy if it slept on the dresser. Kids say weird things. The afternoon went on. Around 4 p.m., as the sky turned that dull winter gray, I went to the living room. Ellie was coloring again, but this time she wasn't humming. She looked pale, unsettled. "What's wrong?" I asked. She didn't look up. "He's back." My stomach tightened. "Who?" She lifted her finger and pointed toward the large sliding glass door to the backyard. I turned slowly. Nothing. Just our reflection in the glass. But I went over, flicked on the porch light, and stared out. Still nothing. "He was standing right there," she said, her voice small. "Watching us through the glass." The unease crawled back up my spine. I told her she probably imagined it, but I double-checked the locks anyway. Dinner was ready around 6. For a while, things felt okay, almost warm. Ellie perked up, telling me about school. But halfway through the meal, she froze, fork in the air, and stared past me. I turned. This time I saw it, not clearly, but a shape. Something tall, pressed against the darkness outside the dining room window. A long, narrow form too, still to be a trick of light. A silhouette. My heart hammered as I stood up so fast my chair scraped the floor. I flipped the porch light on, but the moment the yard lit up, the shape was gone, melted back into the night. Ellie was shaking. "He doesn't like the light," she whispered. I locked every door, closed every curtain, and made sure every window latch snapped tight. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something was circling the house, slowly, patiently. After dinner, I let Ellie sleep in my room. She was exhausted and fell asleep fast. I stayed awake, sitting on the edge of the bed, listening to every creak and groan of the house. Around 1 a.m., something tapped on the window, a soft, deliberate tap. I froze. Another tap. Higher this time, as if whatever was outside was shifting its height. I forced myself to stand and walk to the window. My reflection stared back. I reached out to pull the curtain back, just an inch. But before I could, Ellie's drawing slipped off the knitstand. It didn't drift down. It dropped, like it had been pulled. The moment it hit the floor, the tapping stopped. The silence that followed felt heavy, aware. The next morning, the yard was quiet. When I stepped outside, I saw something in the thin layer of dew on the patio. A footprint. Long, thin, nothing like a human foot. And right beside it, a dark streak of crayon wax smeared across the concrete. The same shade as the figure in her picture. We've moved since then. Different house, different town. But Ellie still draws that same tall, faceless shape every Thanksgiving. And every year she tells me the same thing. "Daddy, he knows where we moved."
The envelope had my brother's handwriting on it, but he'd been dead for 3 years when it showed up in my mailbox. I still don't know whether what happened last Thanksgiving was supernatural, a threat, or something far worse that I can't even name. All I know is that the letter arrived on November 20th, folded neatly between a grocery flyer and a utility bill like it was delivered normally. The return address stopped my breath. It was my brother Daniel's old house, the one he died in. He'd passed away in 2020, a heart attack at 32. Sudden, brutal. I never fully recovered from it, and my parents never did either. I avoided his old house every Thanksgiving because it held too many memories, too much silence. So when I saw the address and then the handwriting, I felt cold all over. It was unmistakably Daniel's. Even the tiny ink blot in the corner of his lowercase e something he always made because he pressed too hard with pens. I just stood there on my porch, staring at the envelope until the wind snapped me back to reality. My hands were shaking so badly I almost tore it in half opening it. Inside was a single sheet of paper, thick, off-white, the kind you'd get in a holiday stationery pack. At the top, written perfectly centered, were the words, Thanksgiving dinner, November 25th, 6 o'clock p.m. in Daniel's house. Under it, in smaller handwriting, was a line that made my stomach drop. We need to talk. Come alone. No signature. No explanation. Just that. I must have read the note 10 times before I sat down, trying to piece together some rational explanation. A prank? Impossible. No one I knew had that handwriting. A mistake? Maybe. But why use his house? Why write come alone? I didn't want to go. Every instinct told me not to. But grief does strange things to you. A tiny, stupid, hopeful part of me wondered if this was some way to find closure, or at least the truth. Thanksgiving Day came faster than I wanted. I spent the whole afternoon pacing my apartment, checking the clock every 2 minutes. By 5:30, I grabbed my coat, got in my car, and drove toward my brother's old neighborhood. The sky was dark already, that kind of cold November night where the air feels metallic. When I turned onto his street, my headlights swept across empty yards and houses that looked smaller than I remembered. His house was the last one on the left, partially hidden by a huge oak tree. The porch light was off. No car in the driveway. No sign of life, but the front door was slightly open. Just a sliver, like someone had cracked it to watch for me. I parked on the street and stepped out, my boots crunching over dead leaves. The air felt heavy, like the whole neighborhood was holding its breath. When I reached the porch, I pushed the door fully open. The smell hit me first, a faint mix of dust, old wood, and something sour underneath. I stepped inside and immediately noticed the house was untouched. Same furniture. Same layout. Even the same framed photo of us by the stairs. It looked like Daniel had never left. All the lights were off except one in the dining room, flickering weakly through the hallway. My heart pounded as I walked toward it, the floorboards creaking under my feet. When I reached the dining room, I stopped. The table was set. 6 plates, 6 forks, 6 knives. And at the head of the table, a place setting with a name card, my name. I felt a wave of nausea. I backed up, ready to leave, but behind me a soft thump echoed from upstairs. Then another. And another, slow, measured footsteps. My blood turned to ice. I called out again, "Daniel?" Silence. Then the footsteps continued, descending the stairs. I could hear the weight shifting on each step like someone cautious. Or weak. When the sound reached the bottom of the staircase, I forced myself to look. There was no one there. But the air felt different, colder, like the temperature had dropped in a single breath. Something moved behind me. A faint scrape across the dining room table. I turned sharply, but the room was empty. The only thing different was the place card with my name. It now faced the chair at the opposite end of the table, Daniel's old seat, as if someone wanted me to sit. Before I could move, another slip of paper appeared on the table. I swear to God, it hadn't been there a second earlier. I picked it up with trembling fingers. One sentence was written on it in that same unmistakable handwriting. "You weren't there when I died." My knees nearly buckled. "I'm sorry," I choked out, tears burning my eyes. I didn't know you needed me. I didn't know. A loud, sharp crack echoed through the house like a door slamming upstairs. Then footsteps again, this time running. Fast, toward the staircase. Toward me. I bolted out the front door, sprinting to my car without looking back. I didn't stop shaking until I reached my apartment. The next morning I planned to go to the police. I checked the envelope for the address again and realized something I hadn't noticed before. There was no stamp, no postmark. And the return address, the one from Daniel's house, was written in his handwriting. But the house had been demolished 6 months earlier. It no longer existed. Today, 1 year later, I found another envelope in my mailbox. Same handwriting. Same off-white paper. No stamp. This time, the message inside is only 3 words. You're late again.
Did you ever watch something on TV that you knew, instantly, you were never meant to see? Something that felt like it was staring right back at you? I still don't know exactly what I watched that Thanksgiving morning, but I've spent every holiday since then sleeping with my TV unplugged and my phone powered off, terrified that the broadcast might come back. This happened back in 2019. I was 23 and living alone in a small apartment in Massachusetts. Thanksgiving Day was always a huge deal in my family, but that year, for the first time, I wasn't going home. Work, money, life, it had all piled up. So instead, I decided to do the next best thing and watch the Thanksgiving parade, just like I did when I was a kid. I figured it would be nice to have some noise and color to fill the silence of my apartment. It was around 8:58 a.m. I remember the exact time because I looked at my phone, trying to decide if I should call my mom before things got loud on her end. The channel was already set to the network that always aired the parade. A cheerful, bright commercial was playing, and everything felt completely normal. Then the TV flickered, just once, but it was enough for me to notice. The sound cut out for a split second, and static started crawling at the bottom of the screen. And then, without any kind of transition, a different feed just appeared. At first, I thought my cable box had glitched into some local news station. The picture looked like it was from a security camera, a dim room, concrete walls, one single, flickering light overhead. The camera angle was fixed, pointed down at a long metal table. 3 people were sitting at it. 2 men, both with their hands tied behind their backs, their heads drooping forward as if they were unconscious. And at the center of the table was a woman. She was also tied, but she was staring directly into the camera. She wasn't speaking. She wasn't crying. She just stared, like she had been waiting for someone to tune in. The only sound was a low hum, like an old ventilation system, but beneath it I could hear something else, a faint shuffling. And the sound of someone breathing way too close to a microphone. The broadcast had no network logo, no timestamp, nothing. Just this room, where something horrible was clearly happening. I froze. I remember whispering hello, to no one, like a total idiot, as if they could actually hear me. Then the woman's mouth moved. "Please," she said, her voice was barely audible. It trembled, like she was forcing the words through a frozen throat. "Don't turn it off. Don't." The screen glitched again. This time, the camera zoomed in, unnaturally close and all at once, like someone had physically jerked it forward. Suddenly her eyes filled the entire screen. They were wide and bloodshot. Utterly terrified. And then a shadow moved behind her. I didn't see a person, not clearly. It was just a shape, tall and thin, passing behind the table. The woman flinched, pressing her shoulder up like she expected to be hit. The audio cracked with a sharp burst of static, and then a man's voice came through. It was calm, almost bored. He said, "They're watching." I jumped back. The voice wasn't directed at the people in the room. It sounded like he was talking to me. To anyone who might have stumbled onto this broadcast. The woman on screen shook her head violently, her eyes darting back to the camera. "Please," she whispered again. "Make it stop." And just like that, the feed cut to black. I sat there in total silence, staring at my own reflection in the dark TV screen. maybe 10 seconds passed. Then, the parade's opening theme started playing, loud and cheerful, like absolutely nothing had happened. I didn't know what to do. Call the police? What would I even say? How do you explain something that appeared for less than a minute on a channel watched by millions of people? Surely, someone else must have seen it. It would be all over the internet, right? I grabbed my phone and started searching frantically. Thanksgiving parade glitch, kidnapping broadcast, hijacked TV signal. Nothing. Not a single confused tweet, no forum posts, nothing. I thought maybe it was my cable provider, so I called them. The support agent told me there had been no outages, no interruptions, nothing unusual reported on their end. I almost expected them to laugh at me. For the rest of the day, my TV stayed off. I tried to forget about it, trying to convince myself it was just some bizarre, hyper-realistic commercial or a twisted anti-abduction PSA that went horribly wrong. That night, around 11:40 p.m., I got a direct message request on Instagram from an account I didn't recognize. It had no profile picture. No posts. The message was only 4 words, "You weren't supposed to." I stared at it for a full minute before deleting the message and blocking the account. I didn't sleep well, but nothing else happened that night. The next morning, though, things got so much worse. When I checked my TV, which was still unplugged, I found a piece of paper lying underneath it. A small square, the kind you'd tear from a notepad. I lived alone, remember? I had locked every single door and window. The note said, "Did you record it?" My hands were shaking so badly I dropped it. I immediately called my building manager, convinced someone had broken in. He checked all the hallway cameras. He said nobody entered my apartment. Nobody left. My front door never opened. He suggested that maybe I'd just misplaced the slip of paper earlier in the week. But I hadn't. I knew I hadn't. The days after that were quiet, but every Thanksgiving morning since then, I've woken up dreading the moment I pass by my TV. I'll hear phantom static in my head, see that woman's eyes staring back at me from the dark screen. And every single year, without fail, at around the same time, 8:58 a.m., my phone vibrates once. Just one notification. A message request from a new, empty account. And it's always the same 4 words, "You weren't supposed to." Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to like and subscribe for more.